잠깐. 제시카 외동딸 일리노이 시카고 과선배는 김진모 그는 이사촌.
Now, you're probably thinking, Oishi, Parasite came out almost a year ago at this point. Award season for this film is long over. It's old news. So why are you still talking about this? And the answer is because I love this movie. I've seen it 3 times this year alone. I can and probably have talked about this movie for hours. I think about this movie too often to be considered healthy. But then again, that's just what I do in general. I think about movies. Not just their narrative aspects, but also their technical aspects. I was in one of my deep thinking about Parasite holes a while ago, and I got around to thinking about its story structure. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized one crazy thing about this movie, and that is that Parasite does not have a definitive story structure. What I mean by this is that for most well-made movies, it's fairly easy to separate the narrative into different acts. Most movies, and most stories in general, follow a classic 3-act structure, with Act 1 taking up 25% of the runtime, Act 2 taking up 50%, and Act 3 taking up the last 25%. Not all movies follow this structure, but it is very common. It's a tried and true method for telling good narratives. However, even if a film doesn't follow this structure, you can often still figure out what method it does follow. It might take a little more thinking, but it's not rocket science. And then there's Parasite. When I first went to divide up this movie, I came up with something kind of strange. So I tried again, and came up with something different. And then I tried again, and came up with something else different, and rinse and repeat. This movie seems to be able to follow so many different structures, and it's kind of blowing my mind. And what do I do when something blows my mind? I make a video about it. For the sake of this video, I'm going to go over 3 different structures that I think this movie could follow. Here is option 1, following a classic 3-act structure, and a massive spoiler alert is now in effect because I will be going very in-depth into this movie. Act 1 naturally starts at the beginning of the film. We meet the Kim family, consisting of father Ki-taek, mother Chung-suk, son Ki-yu, and daughter Ki-jung. We also see that their financial situation is less than ideal. The family is visited by Ki-yu's friend Min, who brings them a metaphorical stone that immediately intrigues Ki-yu. Later, Min tells Ki-yu that he's going to be studying abroad for a while, and that he wants Ki-yu to take over his job tutoring the daughter of a rich family. Ki-yu is worried the family won't hire him because he's not a university student, and Min tells him to just fake it. End of Act 1. This is everything that a first act technically should have. It gives us main characters with the Kim family, a setting with this dingy semi-basement, and the inciting incident with Min telling Ki-yu to fake his documents to get hired by a rich family. With this comment from Min, Ki-yu gets thrust into a new world. Let's continue. Act 2 starts with Ki-jung forging Ki-yu's university documents. He goes to the rich Park family, has a sample lesson with the daughter Dahe, and is hired on the spot. He learns that the Park's son, Da-sun, is in need of an art teacher, and uses the opportunity to help Ki-jung con her way into the family too. They continue with this, helping Ki-taek get hired as a driver and Chung-suk as a housekeeper. The Park family leaves on a camping trip for Da-sun's birthday, leaving the Kim family to roam about the house in their successful con. They lounge about, lament about rich people, have a generally good time, but then... Mong-kwang, the previous housekeeper who Chung-suk replaced, is back, saying she left something in the basement. Chung-suk lets her in, and they discover a whole secret basement under the house where Mong-kwang's husband Kun-se has been squatting. Chung-suk threatens to tell the Park family about this, but Mong-kwang finds out about the Kim family's con and holds them hostage, threatening to send a damning video to the Park family. A fight breaks out, and Mrs. Park calls the house to let Chung-suk know their camping trip was cancelled because of heavy rain, and that they would be returning home in 8 minutes. The Kims rush to clean up their mess and put Mongkwang and Kunse back in the basement. The Park family returns. Chung-suk kicks Mongkwang down the stairs, giving her a bad hand injury. Kyu, Kijung, and Ki-taek are forced to hide about the house and listen to Mr. and Mrs. Park talk about Ki-taek and a certain smell he has about him.
It's the smell of poverty.
They're finally able to make their escape late at night. They return to their own street to see that the heavy rain has completely flooded their home. They spend the night in a gymnasium with numerous other people whose houses were flooded. It's here where Kyu and Ki-taek have a heart-to-heart. Kyu, clutching the stone, tells his father that he has a plan on how to deal with Mongkwang and Kunse, to which Ki-taek replies that the only plan that works is no plan at all. End of Act 2. Everything in this section is rising action. The con, the basement discovery, almost getting caught by the Parks, and the flood is all conflict stacking up on itself. It ends with the lowest point of the movie so far. The Kims have basically lost their livelihood, and the con they worked so hard to pull off is in jeopardy. Let's finish this off. Act 3 starts the next morning, with Mrs. Park calling Kijung to invite her to a last-minute birthday party for Dasun to make up for the botched camping trip. Kyu is also invited, and Ki-taek is needed as well. So the Kims make their way back to the Park house, where a party is in full swing. Kyu asks Dahae, who he has a bit of a relationship with, by the way, if he belongs here, to which Dahae unconvincingly replies yes. Kyu sets out with the stone to deal with Mongkwang and Kunse. However, he gets distracted by Mongkwang's dead body, because that head injury was pretty bad, and he gets attacked by Kunse, and is incapacitated. Kunse grabs a kitchen knife and heads out into the yard. He stabs Kijung and attacks Chung-suk for revenge for the death of his wife. Dasun has a seizure, and Mr. and Mrs. Park are desperate to get him to a hospital. Ki-taek tosses the car keys to Mr. Park, but they fall short and land near Kunse. As Mr. Park goes to retrieve them, he physically cannot stand the smell coming off of Kunse.
It's the smell of poverty.
Ki-taek absolutely loses it. He grabs the knife, stabs Mr. Park, and flees the scene. Fade to black. A while later, we see that Kyu had a pretty bad head injury, but survived and is healing. Kijung has died from her injuries, Chung-suk and Kyu get charged for their crimes, and Ki-taek has disappeared off the face of the earth. The surviving Parks have now moved, but Kyu is still drawn to the house and often visits it. One night, he sees the light turning on and off and recognizes it as Morse code. It's a message from Ki-taek. We learn that after he stabbed Mr. Park, he went and hid in the basement of the house and has been there ever since. Kyu runs home and drafts a letter to his father. In it, he says that he has a plan. He's going to get older and make a lot of money and buy that house, and when he does, all Ki-taek will have to do is walk up the stairs. The film ends with Kyu and Ki-taek hugging for the first time in years. Except, it doesn't end there. Instead, we go back to the dingy semi-basement, back to present-day Kyu, as he stares into the camera and bids both us and his father goodbye. End of Act 3. End of movie. This act is all about plotlines coming together, the climax with the birthday party massacre, and the denouement with everything being wrapped up, well, not happily exactly, but wrapped up. This is a classic 3-act structure, but even then, it's already starting to not entirely comply with traditional 3-act rules. Remember those percentages I gave you earlier? Well, they are nowhere to be found in this structure. This movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes long, which means that by these percentages, Act 1 should be 33 minutes, Act 2 should be 66 minutes, and Act 3 should be 33 minutes. However, in this first option, Act 1 lasts a mere 11 minutes, Act 2 lasts 90 minutes, and Act 3 lasts 31 minutes. Strange, but hey, this option still follows the general ebb and flow of a classic 3-act structure, so I'm classifying it as one. But this isn't the structure I initially thought of when dividing this film up. So let's look at another option. In option 2, Act 1 is the same as in option 1. It starts with the Kim family in their semi-basement and ends with Min suggesting Kyu fake his university documents. Act 2 starts with Kijung forging the documents and Kyu going to the Park house. It ends with everyone in the Kim family successfully conning their way into the Park family. Act 3 starts with the Kims lounging about the Park house and ends with them discovering the secret basement. Act 4 starts with the Kims discovering the truth about Mongkwang and ends with Kyu and Ki-taek's heart-to-heart. And finally, Act 5 is the same as Act 3 in option 1, starting with Kijung being invited to the party and going all the way until the end of the film. This is a 5-act structure. It's much more streamlined with more acts but shorter acts. Act 1 is the exposition. We get characters, setting, and the initial conflict, Kyu having to fake his documents. Act 2 is the rising action, which is the con. Act 3 is the climax, and in this sense, climax means turning point of the story. And oh boy, if this isn't a turning point... then I don't know what is. Act 4 is falling action, where unknown details are revealed, so Mongkwang and Kunsei squatting in the basement, and the story arrives at the beginning of the end, the flood and the heart-to-heart. Finally, Act 5 is the resolution, or denouement, in which we get the final outcome, the massacre, Kijang's death, the truth about Kitek, and the struggles of class divisions. To put this into even simpler terms, we can say that each act has one key element to it. Act 1 has the inciting incident, Act 2 is the con, Act 3 is everything seemingly going well for the Kims, Act 4 is everything seemingly falling apart for the Kims, and Act 5 is the consequences to all of their actions. Now, the 5-act structure is used more for television, but I really do think it could work for this film as well. But once again, it gets weird when we look at the numbers. For a 5-act structure, each act would logically be about 30 minutes long, give or take a few minutes. This would result in about a 2.5-hour film, so pretty close to Parasite's runtime. However, when we look at Parasite, once again, the numbers don't make sense. Act 1 is 11 minutes, Act 2 is 42 minutes, Act 3 is 12 minutes, Act 4 is 35 minutes, and Act 5 is 31 minutes. Somebody make it make sense. So, okay, yes, the runtimes don't exactly match up with the numbers, but the content makes this a 5-act structure. But still, this is not the structure I initially thought of. This is option 3. In option 3, Act 1 starts with the Kim family in their semi-basement, but instead of ending with Min telling Kyu to fake his university documents, it goes all the way until the entire Kim family has successfully conned their way into the employment of the Park family. Act 2 starts with the Kims lounging about the Park house and ends with Kyu and Kitek's heart-to-heart, and Act 3 is the same as it has been across all 3 options, starting with Kijang being invited to the party, going all the way until the end of the film. Once more, this is a 3-act structure, but it's so far from the one that we're all used to. If this already sounds strange to you, just wait till I tell you these numbers. Let me bring back these percentages to remind you how this should look. And now here's what it actually looks like. Huh? What? What is this? I mean, while Act 1 in my other 2 options was only 11 minutes long, in this option it's 54 minutes, almost an hour of the runtime. How is Act 2 shorter than Act 1 when everyone always says it should be the longest? And how is Act 2 only 16 minutes longer than Act 3? But most importantly, how is Act 1 almost an hour long? I mean, if you took a screenshot of this and you took it to any writing teacher ever, oh my god, they would blow a gasket. No, they would murder you. They would end you where you stood for having the audacity to bring these abhorrent numbers to them, calling it story structure. And yet, this is the option that was the first one to pop into my head when I was dividing this movie up. And even crazier is that the couple other people I talked to about this movie's story structure also went for a similar option. We are all picking the structure option that logically doesn't work. I mean, imagine if we applied this to a different movie. Let's talk about The Social Network's first act. Mark's girlfriend breaks up with him. Mark gets mad, goes back to his dorm, and like a total douche writes insulting stuff about his now ex-girlfriend online. He then sets up a website with pictures of girls from other colleges where people can rate their attractiveness, cause he's a dick. Traffic is so heavy that Harvard's computer network crashes, but he's gotten the attention of the Winklevoss twins, who want him to help them create Harvard Connection, a social site for Harvard students. That is all of Act 1, which takes him about half hour of the movie. Now imagine if all of that stayed the same, except it was now stretched over almost an hour of runtime. Oh my goodness, could you imagine how boring that would be? Like imagine if we actually saw the guy code. People would have fallen asleep in the theater. Or, okay, how about La La Land? It uses a 4-act structure, but we can still use it as an example. So, that first act, we follow Mia through her bad day, and then Sebastian through his bad day, and they end up together at the restaurant, and it's not a very nice meeting. All of that, again, takes up about 30 minutes. Now take that, and imagine it was an hour long. No, that would not work. That would be terrible. It would have so many pacing issues, it would be insulting. You would not win 4 Academy Awards for that. So how did this beautiful genius of a man make a movie with this structure, with no pacing issues whatsoever, that was so good that he was given 4 Academy Awards for it? Well, I have a theory. My theory surrounds the fact that Parasite is a movie within a movie. When looking at this first act, I realized that everything that happens in it, from meeting the Kim family in their semi-basement all the way until they've successfully conned their way into the Park family. When looking at this first act, I realized that everything that happens in it, from meeting the Kim family in their semi-basement all the way until they've successfully conned their way into the Park family, could, in theory, be a whole film on its own. It follows its own classic 3-act structure. Okay, let's break down Act 1 of Option 3 into its own 3 acts. Act 1 starts with the Kim family and ends with Min telling Kyu to fake his university documents. Act 2 starts with Kyu going to the Park house and ends with Ki-taek being hired. Act 3 starts with Kyu, Ki-jung, and Chung-suk planning how to get rid of Mong-kwang and ends with everyone successfully in their employment positions. And the more I think about this, the more it makes sense. Each act is comprised of everything it should be. Act 1 has characters, setting, and the inciting incident. Act 2 is rising action with each new member of the family being added into their con. And Act 3 is the hardest part of their con yet, getting rid of Mong-kwang and their celebration at their success. Crazy, right? But what I'm about to show you is the craziest part. Once again, here are our percentages. If this was its own separate film, the total runtime is around 54 minutes. Act 1, being 11 minutes long, would take up just under 25% of the runtime. Act 2, being 28 minutes long, would take up about 50%. And Act 3, being 15 minutes, would take up a little over 25%. So this entire time, I've been saying Bong didn't use a classic 3-act structure, when in reality, he did. Just not in the way we would have expected him to. So that's why I think this overall structure works so well, why our brains want to keep this whole big chunk of the movie together as one act, even though it goes against classic storytelling conventions. It's why this movie can have a first act that is 54 minutes long and not have any pacing issues whatsoever, because everything inside this act is paced to perfection, and both acts that come after are as well. We've looked at 3 different story structures for this movie. So, which one is correct? And the answer is, I don't know. Okay, and I know you're probably thinking, Oishi, you just ranted about this for X number of minutes. What do you mean you don't know? And I mean that I don't know. I don't know which of these is objectively correct. I know which one feels right to me, option 3, but I don't know which one is objectively correct. They all have their issues, but they could also all work on some level. I don't know what's going on anymore. Why do these work? Why do they not work? Is it because this is a strange story and a strange structure complements it? Is it because it's a movie within a movie? Is it because Bong Joon-ho is God? Is Bong Joon-ho our one true savior? Did he die for our sins? Did he sell his soul to the devil to be a master of his art like it was believed Paganini did back in the day? And if so, honestly, I'm thinking of doing the same thing if it lets me make a movie this good. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that the problem doesn't lie with the movie. The problem lies with me, because I have been trying to explain art with math, and that is probably one of the hardest, not to mention dumbest things to do. Math is so unwaveringly objective. It's all rules and regulations and set processes. And math, you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and if you've done all of that right, then you will end up with the universally correct answer. Art is the complete opposite of that. Art is idea, it's innovation, it's trial and error, it's a guessing game. With art, you could do this, then you could do this, then you could do this, and then you could do this. And if you do all of that, then maybe you could end up with something great. Or you could end up with something that sucks. And even if you do end up with something great, you can be sure that at least one person out there will think it sucks. That is subjectivity, and that is why art is so frustrating yet beautiful. It's frustrating because it can be extremely hard for people to learn the ropes, but it's beautiful because it lets someone like me make a 20-minute video about the enigmatic story structure of one film, and then by the end have no answers to offer. It's beautiful because it allows people to explore, to talk, to dig deep, to analyze, and to have fun. It's beautiful because it allows a movie to have these godforsaken numbers as its story structure, and still be one of the greatest films ever made. And that is what Parasite is, a great film. Because at the end of the day, people don't remember Parasite because of its story structure. They remember it for its bizarre plot, outstanding performances, impeccable direction, all-worthy set design, beautiful score, fantastic editing, relevant themes, and historic Oscar win. People don't remember it for its math. They remember it for its art. So, yeah, Parasite goes against a lot of things I've learned as a writer, but it's better for it. Hi everyone, it's Oishi. Thank you so much for watching this video. When I said I think about this film too often, I'm serious. I started thinking about all of this story structure stuff as I was trying to go to sleep one night, and I kid you not, I was awake for hours. If you haven't seen this film yet, please, I'm begging you, go watch it. It's fantastic. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know which one of these structures works for you, or if you've got a completely different structure, drop that in the comments. Because honestly, there's probably more structures. I mean, I didn't even entertain the idea that there could be another act break in the fade to black after the birthday party, because if I had, I would probably still be scripting this video. But hey, if you want to entertain that idea, the comment section is there for you. If you like this sort of stuff and you want to see more of it, make sure to hit subscribe. Also, I'm on platforms, so if you want to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and Letterboxd, those links will be in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.